All right, guys, today in front of me from J.W. Kelly & Company, we have a bunch of samples in front of me that the company sent over for me to review on the channel. I think what we're going to do today is get into the 3 rye whiskeys that they sent over. Definitely excited to get into these samples, guys. Without further ado, let's go. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the Golden Age Straight Rye Whiskey. Mash bill on this one is 65% rye, 20% malted barley, and 15% malted rye. Comes in at 94 proof. Let's go ahead and get in the nose. So for me on this one, there's definitely a lot of rye influence, with there being that malted rye and then just, 65% rye. Definitely get a lot of the rye spices. Kind of get like a little bit of like a lemon zest there, as well as a little bit of like earthiness in there as well. Maybe just maybe a little bit of a tea note. Further in the glass, I start to pick up a little bit of like a fresh dill, but then there's like this little kind of honeysuckle, a little bit of a floral kind of thing going on there. Further in the glass as well. Let's get it, palate, guys. Cheers. So this one's interesting. So it's a mix. Like I get a lot of that maltiness. It's almost like beer-like, and then it's almost like a beer finished in like rye barrels. But then the rye spices start to develop. So it's like that malted barley kind of takes over the palate. Nice kind of like a ginger chew, a little bit of lemon. But then some of that malted barley and malted rye kind of takes over the back of the palate. Becomes almost like a little bready, like a bready character to it. Nice, pretty nice viscosity to it. I think that malted, barley and malted rye kind of create that viscosity and oiliness on the palate. Very, very soft. Again, only like 94 proof, so not very high in heat. Let's get the last sip, guys. Cheers. So on that sip, a little bit changed. I do get like a little more baking spice forward on the front of the palate. A little, it's almost like a little bit of like some strawberry or like a fig kind of jam on there on the front of the palate. And then, again, that ginger chew across the center of the palate. Then towards the back, it does, it starts to get like a little bready. But the viscosity of it is really nice. Again, 94 proof, not super spicy with the amount of rye that's in there, 65% rye. It's not very spicy. It's not rye spice driven. You do get some of those flavors in there with it being fairly young, but I think that malted barley and malted rye kind of hide that, kind of mask it very well. Either way, pretty good pour here from J.W. Kelly. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the Silver Spring Rye. So this one comes in at 110.99 proof. Mash bill on this one is 65% corn, 15% rye, 20% malted barley, which is definitely a mash bill that I've seen before. I just can't remember exactly where that's from. So I know this is from, it's sourced from a Kentucky distillery, but I have seen that mash bill before. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But let's go ahead and get to the nose. The nose on this one is very sweet. It's very candied. You do get some of that rye. It's almost like I almost get like a little bit of like a banana bread on the nose. But then there's a slight hint of like clove there further into the glass. Yeah, I think some of that corn too, with it being 15% corn, offers, a little bit of sweetness there on the nose. But again, it's not overly, dominated by that rye spice. Smells really good though, guys. Get in the palate. Cheers. So that's actually really good. That has a lot of nice kind of traditional, almost like bourbon-like flavors on the front of the palate. A lot of caramels, vanillas. Middle of the palate, it gets like kind of silky. Then towards the back of the palate, that's where like the rye spice kind of starts to pick up. And you get a little bit of that clove, a little bit of white pepper towards the back. But this one almost seems like it's a little bit older based on flavor than that. Than the first rye we tried. This one offers a little bit more of that rye spice bite as well. I feel that across the center of the palate as well. But again, like that kind of like traditional, almost like bourbon, those bourbon notes, that vanillas and the caramels there on the front of the palate. A little bit of clove. There's actually a little bit of like honey there as well on the center of the palate. In the back of the palate, those rye spices start to kind of pop up into the finish with some of that white pepper. I like this one. Let's get a last sip, guys. Cheers. Yeah, so front of the palate again, very, very sweet with that caramel, vanilla, a little bit of lemon there. So on the back of the palate now, I notice it's like some rye spice, some white pepper, and then black tea. Definitely a tea note there on the back. Middle of the palate is still, there's still some of that rye spice there. Still a little bit of clove that appears. This one you feel a little bit more of that rye than you did on the other one. And again, it is a little bit higher in proof, being 110.99. Yeah, I think this one's really nice. I feel like you pick up a lot of traditional kind of like bourbon notes, but then some of that rye really starts to kind of pick up on the mid to back palate on this one. I do like the way that the rye spice ends up on the back of the palate with that white pepper kind of flowing through the finish, a little bit of clove there. Definitely like this Silver Springs Rye. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the Melrose Rye Whiskey. So this one is double barreled. And then once it's done, it's transferred over into a 15-year Amarone Italian wine barrel, where it sits until it's ready to be pulled. So definitely excited to get in this one. Let's get into those, guys. There's a lot of wine influence on this one. There's a lot of grape. There's a lot of fig on the nose on this one. Like a kind of a bright red cherry as well. But then there's also some of that rye spice that you pick up further into the glass. So further away from the glass, it's more of like a cherry lemon mix. But then further into the glass, again, you're getting fig. There's actually a lot of fig on this one. A lot of kind of like ripe, kind of like dark fruits on the palate on this one. But then that rye spice makes itself present further into the glass as well. Let's get into the palate, guys. Cheers. Yeah, so the influence from the wine on that it covers the palate very well. But what I like about it is that it covers up some of that graininess. I got a slight hint of graininess there on the front of the palate, but then some of that darker fruit, definitely some cherries, again some fig, definitely cover that up. There is a little bit of lemon cherry there going on in the middle of the palate. I wish it wasn't so thin. I wish there was a little more viscosity to it, a little more body, a little more depth to it. I feel like if that were the case, this one would really stand out because I like the finishing on it, but it kind of has a thin finish to it. But it's nice. It offers you a kind of a big burst of flavor, and then it kind of disappears. Again, it's like cherry, lemon. There's some fig on there. Not getting a ton of that rye spice though. That I was kind of hoping to get. I got some of that graininess on the front of the palate, but then it kind of got covered up by some of those finishings, those fruit finishings there. Let's get the last sip, guys. Cheers. Yeah, again, that cherry lemon kind of sweetness. It's very, very sweet on the front of the palate. Again, just a slight hint of that grain, but then it gets covered up by, again, that fig, that cherry, that lemon. A slight hint of that rye spice there that starts to appear in the mid to back palate. If it had, again, a little more body, a little more depth, some layers kind of to it, a little more viscous, this would be a really, really, really good whiskey. But it's kind of missing those. It's kind of missing that complexity, that depth, those layers to it. But I mean, regardless, I mean, I like the big burst of flavors that you get from that 15-year Italian wine barrel. I do like that influence on there, but it's almost just not enough. It's just a little thin on the palate. But either way, still good stuff here from J.W. Kelly & Company. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I want to send a big thank you over to the team at J.W. Kelly & Company for supplying with these samples here to review on the channel. Again, guys, all three of these rye whiskeys, pretty tasty. I did prefer some of them over the others. But what I liked about it is it has a really nice kind of like portfolio. They kind of offer a very nice portfolio, almost something for everyone. Which is kind of what I liked. I was really hoping the Melrose would have a little more depth, body, some kind of layers to it, a little bit of a longer finish. But had it, that probably would have been my favorite. I think that the Silver Springs was probably my favorite out of the three. I think that offered a lot of nice body to it, a lot of nice big bold flavors. Whereas the Golden Age straight rye whiskey was actually that'd be a great whiskey to start someone out on to their rye journey anyway. Either way, all three of these again, pretty nice sippers. I did like all three. However, I think my favorite was the Silver Springs. There will be a part 2 to this review, as I'll review the rest of what they sent me. But again, big shout out to the team over at JW Kelly and Company. Guys, if you're looking for more reviews like this, hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. Till next time, guys, stay dusty.